All right, it is 7 o'clock, and we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll call to order the meeting of the Salem School Committee of January 26, 2026. This meeting is taking place via Zoom. The meeting link can be found in the meeting agenda posted online. All votes of this meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Under discussion, seeing none, roll call vote. Member Cornell,
Yes.
Member Stott,
Yes.
Member Bias.
Yes.
I don't believe Member Miranda has joined us yet. Yes, for me. Member Manning is also not with us, so the agenda is approved. Public comment. The Salem School Committee would like to hear from the public on issues that affect the school district and are within the scope of the committee's responsibilities. Spanish interpretation is available for anyone who needs it. The members of the school committee would like to remind the public that Salem Public School students regularly attend school committee meetings. We encourage all meeting participants to model respectful and productive public discourse for our young learners. If you wish to provide comment, please use the raise hand function, and someone will unmute you. Yes, Adam?
How you doing? Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. I just want to speak for a second for myself as an educator, a parent, and the PTO president of Salton Saw, kind of with a brief comment about the renaming of the new merged K-5 school. I want to offer a perspective about how a school name lives beyond a vote or document. I've also done some branding work, so I tend to think about how names and identities translate into everyday use for families and kids. I'm speaking tonight because the name you choose isn't just a label on a building. It becomes part of a child's identity. It's what they say on the first day of kindergarten and what they wear in a sweatshirt, what they carry with them for years. I just kind of want to share a different lens real quickly. For a few months each year, I help out in downtown in Salem's tourism industry. And through that work, I'm reminded of something again and again. Millions of people visit Salem every year, but most of them never see the Salem our kids live in. When I take visitors to places like Pioneer Village or Max and Danny's house, I often bring them through the Point neighborhood. That short stretch, only a few blocks from downtown, is one of the places where Salem changes, where it stops being a postcard and becomes a community. I talk about the neighborhoods, the murals, the families, and the diversity that defines the city beyond a single narrative. When we pass Salton Saw, I often say proudly, "That's where my kids go," and talk about our public schools and the diversity that exists within them. And the reaction is always the same: a pause, a real surprise, and then wait, really? Or I had no idea, I've been coming here for years. It's one of those moments where people realize Salem is bigger than the version they came for. With that experience is why I'm drawn to the name Fortin Point Elementary School, or a close derivative. It's grounded in place and reflects a neighborhood that deserves to be valued and seen. It also works in a very human way for young children. The word fort carries an instinctive sense of safety, belonging, and support, a place where you're protected and cared for. That's exactly what we want an elementary school to feel like when a child says its name out loud. Charlton Fortin's connection to Salem is rooted in education and learning, and that legacy fits naturally within a school setting. More broadly, a name like Fortin Point quietly tells a fuller story about the city, one that includes neighborhoods, families, and opportunity. Whatever name is chosen, my hope is simply that this perspective is part of this conversation. How a name will feel to children, how it reflects the community they're growing up in, and what it teaches others about Salem beyond what's most visible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further public comment, please use the raise hand function. Seeing no additional comment, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is approval of the consent agenda. These are the minutes of the special school committee meeting of January 5th and the regular school committee meeting of January 5th, and approval of the warrants of December 31st and January 15th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Under discussion, seeing none, Roll call vote. Member Stott?
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Member Bias?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Our next item on the agenda is the student representatives report. Cindy?
Good evening, everybody. My report for this week is going to be very quick, considering that Salem High School was doing midterms last week. So everybody's been pretty busy studying and taking all their tests. So we haven't really had the time to meet with the student advisory group yet for this month, other than when we met with Dr. Zreich. But our work has been progressing a lot. We've had the chance to communicate with email, and we will be having our meeting when we get back to school. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but there is no school tomorrow, so it was pushed a little bit. We have met with students that are newcomers at the school to get a more diverse perspective on our project and to sort of focus our direction and to sort of create a pathway for how we're going to go about the program. And we have uncovered a lot of issues and possible help that the newcomer students might need. And we feel very confident with the project. And I'll definitely have a lot more updates to give you guys once we all meet with everybody and I have the chance to get some more voices and some more opinions out. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Cindy. Any questions from committee members? All right, seeing none. Our next item is the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. I know how disappointed our students are that they have a second snow day tomorrow, after we have gotten the most snow we've seen in a long time in Salem. We obviously think it's the best decision to ensure safety for everyone tomorrow after the amount of snow we received, and we're trying to coordinate with the city and our custodial crews to ensure that students can get to and from school safely on buses and walking and in cars. But I do want to just shout out our custodial crews. This is a really hard storm to address, and they've been working hard all day, multiple shifts, and the snow has just kept coming, right? It continued to snow today. So I just want to express my gratitude to our buildings and grounds crew who have done an outstanding job. You know, if it's not because of them that we're not able to open schools. It really is going to be because of them that we'll be able to be back in school on Wednesday. So just want to call them out. And if you get a chance, please thank the crews that have worked so hard around this storm. Obviously, it was at least a little bit of solace that we had a Patriots victory that helped everyone get through on Sunday night. So I'm also grateful to all. I think we had over 50 entries to the Snow Day Challenge of unbelievable baked goods and different dishes that people made. So check them out on our Facebook page. I want to really appreciate the creativity of our students and our staff who took the time to enter the challenge and kept busy during the last 24 hours. So we'll have another challenge for tomorrow that people can enter. So thank you again, and hopefully we'll be back in school on Wednesday. I do want to start with, I think I want to start with the school calendar for the upcoming school year. And so I don't know if Mark, you can put up the presentation there. Thank you. All right. So just before we get into this, I probably should have noted this earlier, but we now know in Salem when the first day of school will be annually. And because parents do ask me about that, and we should reiterate that since the last contract was approved with the STU, the earliest that school can start for students is the Thursday before Labor Day. And I think that's generally what we intend to do. Is to start the Thursday before Labor Day, and that will be no different for this year. Mark, if you want to go to the next slide. So a couple of things on the proposed calendar. In your packet, I believe you have the district calendar for the majority of schools, And then Salem High and Salem Prep have just a slight wrinkle with their early release days on their calendars. The only calendar you do not have is the calendar for New Liberty and for the merged Carleton and Saltonstall schools. They wanted to wait to have this calendar approved or or further along by the school committee, and then they will work with their staff as innovation schools. Both of them, both New Liberty and the merged Carleton and Saltonstall schools are innovation schools, so they have the ability for staff to set their calendar. Generally, it's very similar, but they will come back to the committee with their proposed calendar. But for the rest of the district, the first day of school would be for staff would be August 31st. First day for students in grades 1 to 8 would be on September 3rd, which is the Thursday before Labor Day. It also avoids the election, the September election, which I think is important because that, I believe, is on September 1st. And the first day for pre-K and kindergarten would be on September 10th. Halloween is on a Saturday this year, so the proposed calendar does not have an adjustment for Halloween. There was a suggestion to move the October 21st early release day to Friday, October 30th. But as of right now, the proposed calendar has October 30th as a full day of school, and because Halloween is on a Saturday. Again, you will see that there's back-to-back PD days, a full day followed by a half-day PD in March. That's similar to this year. Obviously, we haven't gone through that yet. The intention is to use it for student-led conferences, which we are piloting across the district this March. If we think we need to make adjustments on how that time is used so that it's more professional learning time, and that people, don't receive the student-led conferences well, then we will make that adjustment. But it is still our intention for the 26-27 school year to have student-led conferences, with the hope that it goes very well this March, and we get positive feedback. Collins did pilot it earlier this year, and we got some generally positive feedback, but we also got some input and some adjustments we can make. But directionally, people appreciate the student-led conferences. Next slide, Mark. A couple of other reflections on the calendar. We chose to make December 23rd a full day off. People appreciated having a day before the holiday rush of the 24th and the 25th. And so we now have made the 23rd in this proposed calendar a full day off from school. So that came from feedback from the staff who had a chance to weigh in. Again, the primary election is September 1st, which is a non-school day for students. It is a staff professional day, but it is a non-school day for students. Juneteenth this year falls on a Saturday. So the guidance from the Department of Education is that the observance of that day would be a Saturday. So does not need to be a no school day on Juneteenth. The one thing that I've heard from staff as well on the pre-kindergarten, kindergarten schedule, educators do wonder why the year is not longer. We do have a shortened day a shortened year for pre-K and kindergarten. And the reason we do that is, and just want to be clear with the public, is we start later because of busing. We don't want the kindergartners in the mix on the first day of school. With all the challenges we have with bus routes, we prefer to let the routes settle a bit before kindergarten starts. It does give our kindergarten and pre-K teachers more time to prepare as well. And then we end the year earlier for both training and screening for the next group of pre-kinder and kindergarten students. So we do have a slightly shorter year for kindergarten and pre-kindergarten because there is no requirement of 180 days for both pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Next slide. So the final thoughts, the school committee can vote tonight or wait until the next meeting if you just want to put the calendar on the table. Parents, have asked about the calendar. They do know that the first day is the 3rd. Even though Bentley is an innovation school, it does plan to follow the Salem Public Schools calendar. The school committee has copies of the calendars, as I mentioned before. And then once the calendar is approved, Carleton/Saltonstall will submit a calendar for approval. And then I should have added here, New Liberty will as well. So that's just a brief update on the calendar for this year. We did get input from staff. The union weighed in as well, the STU. I feel this is not as complicated as other calendars. It does help that we have more guidance in our contract for what the earliest school can start for staff is. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions from the committee.
Yeah, we'll go Member Cornell to start.
Dr. Zwick, I'm just wondering what kinds of conversations you've had with the Salts Carleton leadership around getting closer to the district calendar.
Yeah, we have had those conversations with them. Ultimately, they do have the staff has the ability to select the calendar for next year, and the idea was that the Saltonstall and Carleton staff would get to do that together this year. You know, at the end of the day, that they do have that autonomy as part of the innovation plan. And so you know, I think we've expressed the interest to try to get it more aligned with the district calendar, but they still have that autonomy with the current plan.
Member Stott.
Thank you. So I had a similar question around the Carleton Salts schedule, but also curious if you have an idea of timing. Like, I know we need to give more time to do that schedule, but what are we thinking? How long will that be? And then my second question was pretty quick. It was about the October days. To me, that seems like an easy switch, the 21st to the 30th. So I'm wondering why there's hesitation around that.
Okay, let me answer the Carleton Saltonstall question first. I think I would hope that I would like it to happen for the next school committee, that they can bring a proposed calendar. I know in the past, Principal Weaver has wanted to wait until the district calendar was set or close to set, but it doesn't take much. It doesn't take long after that. They present 3 different options to the staff, the faculty to select from. While I think it's gotten closer to the district calendar over the years, it's not exactly aligned to the district calendar. To your second question, I think the reason was we have to go virtual. If we did that, we would. I don't love having Friday early releases is really the answer, because I worry about how many kids we'll actually have in school. And then if it's on the 30th itself on a Friday, that would be my pause, is how many kids will actually come to school, given that Halloween is the next day. Now, if the committee feels strongly that for purposes of like traffic and you know, I can understand that would be a day that people would want an early release, but I do worry about attendance on October 30th.
Member Miranda.
Yep, I just had a question about the Carleton Saltonstall calendar as well, and wondering if there's an idea of what the benefits, and I know this is something that may come up later on when we talk about the plan that I think is expiring in 2026. But what are the benefits and what are the costs to having those separate calendars?
Yeah, there is definitely a cost of running buses on some days that we don't run buses for other schools. I think that's probably the biggest cost, is the busing. Elizabeth, I don't know if you have any other thoughts and weighing in on that, but I think mostly it's there's extra transportation costs. There is not extra staffing costs because we run the same number of days. The primary reason they look for a different calendar is for the purposes of planning by trimesters, and we are I think we're still trying to sort out what the innovation plan is going to look like. And to your point, Ms. School committee member Miranda, I think 2026 would be the time to relook at those aspects of the innovation plan. But it's because they've wanted to have the different trimester breaks so they can plan for student movement appropriately. And so we'll see what I really do want to give a voice to the teachers and staff now. And then I think those are questions that we should continue to ask moving forward. I do know from the perspective of the district, it would be a lot easier if everybody was on the same calendar, not even just from a cost, but from a communication and organization standpoint. I just worry that we're going to forget one day that Carleton's in school and everybody else is not in school, and vice versa. And so, we've gotten used to it now, but I think it's a worthy question to ask moving forward.
Cindy.
I really just wanted to add a suggestion for the half day in October. While I do understand your concerns about it being, a Friday and a half day and concerns about attendance, I do feel that it's very imperative to think about the students, like the traffic as well. I know you mentioned it too as a possible concern. There's a lot of students at the school that have to drive themselves, and a lot of students that also rely on transportation. And at least based on my experience with transportation, I feel like there has been a lot of traffic sometimes, and I have not been able to get home until very late-ish hours because of the traffic of the day before Halloween. So while it is obviously a very big concern to worry about attendance rates on the day before Halloween, it's also very important to consider the times that students get home, considering that a lot of us also have after school activities or just things that we need to do after school, like work or any of that, really. And it's, as you are very well aware, all of you, the traffic is very bad the day before Halloween.
No, thank you, Cindy, for your comments. And, I certainly understand that might be a decision the school committee will make, and I would certainly support that, and you can make that. Well, Cindy, you're not technically have the vote, but I think your suggestion is well taken by others, and so you can certainly ask for that amendment to be made to the calendar as part of the vote. I can totally understand that might be an adjustment that the committee will want to make.
Member Cornell.
Thanks. I have two questions. The first one, Dr. Zweig, is Carleton's, this is just about their autonomy. Is that autonomy unique to their innovation plan, or is that common for innovation plans more broadly? Or is that just something we've agreed to?
Kate, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's part of their specific innovation. I'm not entirely sure that it's true about every innovation plan, but Kate, I'll let you weigh in on that.
I don't know either in terms of I haven't studied other innovation plans broadly, but what I can say is that as part of the innovation plan process, that one of the autonomies is the school calendar, and it can be, for students. In this case, we're talking about the student calendar, but it can also be the educator calendar. So I know in the past with Bentley and Carleton, in previous versions of their innovation plans, they've had extra days in the summer that teachers would agree to come to, so to extend the day, and it would be a change in working conditions, etc. So it is not an autonomy that every innovation school must avail themselves of, but it is one that they can choose to incorporate into their innovation plan as needed.
Thank you. And my other question, Dr. Zweig, is what is the STU's perspective on the 30th?
Well, I think I would just say that I have a better perspective of my teacher advisory group, which is members of, they are members of the STU. I think their perspective is they were mixed either, on that. I think people agree that there would be attendance issues for kids, but to Sydney's point, that people are also worried about how much traffic there would be, and people are worried about getting home on time, or not on time, but getting home, period, in a reasonable fashion on 30th. We would probably, if it was an early release that day, it would be a virtual professional learning for teachers once they returned home, which is what we've done the last few years for the 31st this year. And so I think it's mixed. I think it's just odd, it's just odd that it falls on a Saturday. Not odd, but the Saturday is what creates a difference. Normally, we would just have an early release on the 31st.
I agree with Cindy. I think that there's little difference. Folks are going to be coming to town on the 31st. So I would be in favor of the same way that we handled this last year.
Okay.
Folks come here for the weekend, and I just think it's really hard on our staff and really hard on our kids.
Sure.
Member Stott?
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to say, I also agree. I think, attendance is definitely an important factor, but I think on the flip side, a lot of people might choose to miss that day, just with it being a full day as well. So there might be attendance problems really on either side, but might have more of a chance sending because, I have a better chance of getting home with a half day. So it kind of has both arguments pretty equal level. So with just the traffic and the wanting to get, kids home and safe earlier, I would be in support of switching those.
I will say I did have one teacher say, hey, Steve, kids are not going to want to miss Halloween. So they're coming into school no matter what on the 30th. So that is a perspective I heard from one of my teacher advisory group members. So I certainly can accept that. And obviously that's the purview of the committee, but that is to me would be a thoughtful adjustment.
All right, so we have this under motions and resolutions later in the agenda for a vote. If folks are comfortable with it, or any amendments, and then a vote. If there's anything else on the calendar?
Nope. All right, I think maybe, Kate, can we go to the professional development? So we're
Sure.
going to skip to number 3, which is professional development, self-selected professional development.
So Mark, if you can, thank you, pull up I just have 2 quick slides. So this is a quick update. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully some good news on the snow day. And what I'm going to present aligns to our Empower Educators priority in our strategic plan. So just by means of context, we received an extra part of our donation. We receive an annual grant from the Norman H. Reed Trust, and this year they gave us an additional $20,000 in our budget, and they wanted that to support educator training. And so we were thinking about a way that we could, we offer a lot of professional development on our release days and as part of our annual professional development plans, but we wanted to leverage these resources as an opportunity to encourage educators to seek out training that really align to their personal goals in their annual plans, their evaluation plans for the year, their growth plans. And so we put out an application for educators, either individually or in teams, to apply for these funds. We received 21 applications, and we put some parameters around it. So each educator could apply for up to $1,250, and we wanted people to think big. And this was really an opportunity to take courses, to attend conferences, workshops that they ordinarily wouldn't necessarily have out-of-pocket funds to support. And as I said, we received 21 applications. We did have one withdraw, so it was really 20 applications. And some of these were team applications. And if you go to the next slide, Mark, here's just an overview of the types of things that our educators applied for. So I tried to categorize them across departments. So we had a number that fell in the area of supporting students with disabilities and our multilingual learners, which was really great to see because those are priorities for us. I'll just note a couple. So we are going to be sending 3 educators from the Bentley School to attend the California Association for Bilingual Education Conference. They're really excited about that, really informing their work around dual language with some access to some cutting edge information at that conference. So there'll be 3 of them attending that. We have 2 school psychologists going to the National Association for School Psychologists conventions, and you can see a variety of teachers who will be accessing courses in those 2 areas as well. In terms of student supports, we have a nurse who requested to access CPR instructor certification course, which is great. She'll become a certified instructor, and then we'll be able to offer that, which we have done in the past, to other educators in the district. We have 2 nurses who are going to go up to Vermont to attend the New England School Nurse Conference, and they'll be doing that together. We have 3 of our leaders from the Collins Middle School, that will be attending the Equity Imperative Institute, which will be held in Chicago. The keynote speaker there is Zaretta Hammond, who is really just like a national icon around culturally responsive practices. So we've sent out the notifications to our educators that their applications were received. In some cases, we had to ask for additional information, and I did employ a cross-functional team to help me review the applications. I didn't do that myself. I had someone from each department participate with me to do that. We've sent out notification to the educators, and it's, just to share that lots of people have been writing back like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and just, really positive responses to it. So I wanted to share that as a, positive news story that, in a way that we've attempted to encourage our teachers to think out of the box and to empower them to pursue training and experiences that align with their growth priorities. So that is that.
Any questions? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just would add that this is something, our focus with the teacher advisory group this year has been around, in our strategic plan, the priority of like enhancing professional development in the district. And one of the places and we've been reading articles and listening to podcasts and focused on this topic. One of the things I've heard repeatedly from the staff or the teachers on the advisory group is the importance of teachers having choice and autonomy over professional learning. And obviously this requires resources, but it is very important from the staff perspective, because there are a lot of different functions that people perform. They have specialized expertise. They want to be able to access not only learning within the district, but some of the best learning, that most cutting edge learning around the country. And this ability to do that, I know, is in line with the feedback I'm getting from the teacher advisory group. We're going to put together some guidelines for district leaders around, like, principals and other staff that design professional learning for educators, that takes into account their feedback. But this way is very, I think, large for staff, is that they have some choice and autonomy and the ability to pursue some of these experiences outside of the district as well. So, this is exciting. I just hope we're able to continue this as resources are always a challenge, but this is very much well received by the faculty in the Salem Public Schools. I can move on, Mayor.
Yeah. No questions from the committee? Great. Let's move on.
All right. I also, up for consideration this evening is also the enrollment targets for the upcoming school year. And so I'm not going to project this. You have this in your packet. It's in the packet. It was in Friday's information. I just want to touch on a few things with the targets for this coming school year. As you know, the superintendent is charged with setting annual enrollment targets for each individual elementary school. As a district, we have valued integrated and diverse schools, and we've used socioeconomic data to set goals for schools that are within 5 percentage points of the district average. The targets are always set based on the percentage of low-income students as determined by our October 1 state data. And it includes, and it's based on the percentage of low-income and non-low-income students. And we assign these targets for students entering kindergarten and pre-kindergarten. So if you look in the chart below, you can see the historical percentages in school, by school over the last 5 years, percent low income by school. And then the chart below that shows
We're not seeing
you.
it.
What?
Should we have a slide up? Is there a presentation?
No,
of
this is just it's in people's packet. There isn't a slide.
Okay.
Yep. Unless Mark can project it, but
I think this is
Uh-huh.
something that we've gotten emails from the community about before, so I think it's worth projecting.
okay, let's
So
project
that
it.
folks
Okay,
can see it.
sure. Mark, is there any way you can project that?
Yeah, I'm just looking for it. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Yep. Or I guess I can share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, let me just make this bigger here. Okay. So you can see, we'll go to this chart. You can see the percentage of low-income students across our elementary schools over the last 5 years. This year, I added a column for the Carleton Saltonstall merger, so you can see what the low-income percentage is in the merged school by looking at the October 1 enrollment data for both Carleton and Saltonstall. So scrolling down here, what's different this year is for the first time, every school, we'll get to Bentley in a second, but every elementary school is within the district, within 5 percentage points of the district average low income, or the district low income number, which is 57.1% of the district is low income. That is lower than what it has been. I attribute that to the fact that this year we haven't received as many newcomers in the district. And so the percentage of low-income students is lower than it's been in a while. But each of our elementary schools is within 5 percentage points of that number. And so I am recommending that the target be set at 50% low income, 50% non-low income for all the elementary schools. Now, if you remember last year with Bentley, the decision was made by this committee not to set targets for Bentley, that there would be no targets. There is 2 buckets for Bentley. There is the English, there's a Spanish language bucket for students that have proficiency in Spanish. And so in order to 50% of the students need to be Spanish dominant in their enrollment, or Spanish language dominant, and the other 50% are non-Spanish dominant students. It was recommended by this committee that that it was not necessary, that we wanted to promote as many that should be open to as many students as possible. In fact, that it's a program that would benefit many of our lowest income students. So they did not want to set targets for the other 50% of the bucket for Bentley School. And so again, this year, there is no target for Bentley School in terms of income. I will note that their percentage of low income students has declined from the year before. It was at 71%, and now it's at 65.7% low income in October of 2025. And that percentage, or the no target, again only applies to bucket 2, which is for the non-Spanish speaking students at Bentley. I know there's a lot of information here, and I encourage both the committee and the public to read through this. I will say, again, the other thing I will note about these targets for this year is that I just want to go down here. For pre-kindergarten, we have continued to set the targets at 65-35. And the reason for that, 65% low income and 35% not low income, is because our current low income population is much lower in pre-kindergarten. It is at 38.4%, which is slightly higher than last year, but it is well below the the average of kindergarten through 12th grade low income students across the district. And so the committee a number of years ago, when we expanded pre-K, asked us to set the targets at 65-35. There was some discussion at the time. It's setting them at 70-30, 70% low income, 30% not low income, but we settled at 65-35, and we've continued to do that since we expanded pre-K 5 years ago. And so I'm going to stop there. There's a lot of information. I'll have the chart back up for people to see. And so the recommendation is that we set all schools at 50-50, low income, non-low income, except for Bentley, which again, we would maintain, like we did last year, no target for kindergarten enrollment. Questions from the committee?
Folks want to raise hands if they have any questions or comments. Yep, Member Miranda.
In terms of the expanded pre-K and the lower percentage there, I'm assuming some of that has to do with the shorter day. But I know that we've made efforts to have providers fill in some of the gaps. So just wondering, is there anything that we can do there to engage and promote this to lower income folks?
I see that Deputy Superintendent Carboni has her hand raised, so I might.
I would just say that I think one big factor is the fact that we do not offer transportation.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. We do offer the after school support. We've even expanded vacation academies to pre-K, which were well attended last year, and we're continuing that this year. I do think the biggest factor is the fact that we do not offer transportation, and that is a differentiator.
But to your point, Member Miranda, we do have partner programs that do offer that, the transportation, the longer day.
Yes.
So there are places for people. It's just not within the Salem Public Schools. And we do worry about the transportation piece of it with little ones. But to Kate's point, I do think that is the biggest barrier for families, because we have expanded the day. We've tried to make it accessible with after school care, but it's not as much. It's not as much of a wraparound service as the other programs, and the transportation is a huge piece for families.
And we, in addition to that, we don't offer summer, which is another component. So it's not a full year. It is full year, but it doesn't include the summer.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, can I ask something else about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point would love to see some of the data around kids that are in with our partners or with other providers, and then what kids are kind of like falling through the gaps there. Because obviously with like free public pre-K, it would be amazing to kind of be able to provide that high quality education, or super early education.
Okay, do you want to say
Yeah,
something?
no, I was
I
just
know
going to
we're
say, I'd be
preparing.
happy to huddle up with you to sort of get your questions, and then we can certainly come back with you, to you with data around pre-K services.
Member Cornell?
I think this is for you, Kate. This might be a dumb question, but I was just sort of thinking about my own experience with my kids when they were little, and there was no, so there was a very limited pre-K program in Salem Public Schools at the time. But as folks who worked in the summertime, I wouldn't have. My fear was I couldn't lose my seat at the Y. I didn't want my children to give up that spot. So I'm wondering if we have any partnership agreements with some of our other providers that would, I know it's tricky for them because, they have limited resources, but if it's possible to have a partnership agreement so that our kids who are, doing a year of preschool can be guaranteed some space there and maybe not lose that continuity and not lose the care that parents need. Because I'd hate for kids to lose out because, on what we're doing in Salem Public Schools because parents can't do it.
Right. I think that's part of what we're trying to achieve with the mixed delivery model is there's something that for every family, and that there's a variety, and that we're working together to ensure that there's quality across a similar level of quality across all those programs based on our shared resources, using similar curriculum, coaching, PD, and what have you. But that there's good communication across the program so that we are, if we don't have a seat that matches the family's needs, we're referring them to a program that does. So I think that's part of the benefit of the pre-K partnership is that we're trying to tighten up on that and make sure that there's a seat for everyone that meets their needs. But it's still a work in progress.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the system is sort of, I think we're doing the best that we can with the funding that we have. So my understanding is that most of that funding goes to our partners, like to support those initiatives, which is great. But you can sort of see how this creates this kind of tiered delivery system and an equitable system, because we just have families who have different means, and different parental availability, or maybe you've got a grandparent who can take your child all summer. So I think I'm just repeating Member Miranda's question about really wanting to dig in on that data.
To me, it would be a good topic for a committee of the whole meeting to really dig in to some of this data. I think you're asking really good questions. I will say that the purpose of the CPPI grant, the Commonwealth Preschool Initiative, is that there's an equally high bar and standard across all the programs, because the idea is that we wouldn't necessarily have all the kids, but that we would have a very high bar across the city of Salem for what kids would get. So when they came to us to kindergarten, right, there wouldn't be major inequities in terms of, from what program they came from. The good news is now we're working with, what is it now, Kate, 4 or 5 different providers, right? 5, right? And so the whole, over time, and I think it has gotten there, we're not quite where we want to be, that there's a high bar regardless of whether you go to a private provider or whether you come to the Salem Public Schools. And with consistent coaching, with more consistent curriculum and materials and with resources to help them supplement teacher salaries and things like that, that the quality of the programming will be high across the board. We have data on that which we can share, and we're getting there. We're not quite there consistently across all the programs.
Right, and we're able to pinpoint where there's need
Mhm.
for additional support because we do have good data systems now, and we're able to target coaching in those locations and so forth. So we are trying to do exactly what you're pointing out, is that no matter where the child attends, that they're getting an equally high experience. That's the fundamental goal of the CPPI program.
Yeah. I think that loophole is sort of like that we put such a high premium on socioeconomic balance in our, in the K to 12 or K to 5, what we can control. And so that one just seems like a tough barrier there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Member Hoffman?
I think too, like, I think parents mostly are worried about losing their childcare in the summer because all these places have very long wait lists because they don't only take Salem public schools, they take, or from Salem community, they're taking from other communities that may work in Salem. So it's tricky to ask them to hold a spot when there's already a wait list because of the shortage of um, of care. That I think sometimes that tops what people feel about what type of education their child is getting, and they're just looking for the best care for their child. And I think unless we figure out something to like going forward, how to fill that gap for like summertime with like how we do summer school activities, it might be something worth looking into.
Further questions or comments on this topic for the superintendent or the deputy superintendent? Oh. All right. We can
All right,
move on.
so moving on. I have two more items before I pass it off to Elizabeth. We just on my evaluation, I just want to note that I'm almost done. I've used the snow day to catch up. My plan is to email you all my self-appraisal, and then we'll put it up for the public to see as well at the same time, so that they can see what how I've assessed myself. And so my goal is to get it to you by the end of this week, and then we can schedule a later time for the discussion of my performance. In terms of the building committee, you have in your packet an update about or the building project. Things are moving along quickly. I just want to point out two big developments. That the project is going to be moving from feasibility and schematic design phase to the design development phase, which gets more into the weeds and the specifics of the design, with the board meeting with the MSBA on February 25th. We have to go in front of the board, and they will hopefully move us into that next phase, which is another big milestone for the project. The mayor may want to talk more about this, but the members of the school building committee, including myself and the mayor and the chair people from the committee, presented to the city council. Actually, member Cornell was there as well. And members Stott, we presented to the Administration and Finance Committee of the City Council regarding the project bond order and debt exclusion election, and we're grateful for the City Council for moving it forward and placing it on the ballot for a vote on May 5th, if I'm correct, Mayor, for a special election. And then I'll just note that there are upcoming meetings. The next meeting is this Thursday, which is a public meeting in the school committee chambers of the building committee. And I believe that member Stott will now be representing the school committee on that building committee moving forward. Mayor, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think you summarized it pretty well.
Okay. If there's no questions there, I have one more comment and then I'll move it over to Assistant Superintendent Pauly. I just want to express my a shout out, I guess, a recognition to Miss Evie Oquendo, who had her number retired on Friday night in a wonderful ceremony. As always, she spoke beautifully and eloquently about all the people that have, touched her along the way, many of them associated with the Salem Public Schools and coaches and teachers. And while she was an amazing basketball player, she touches each one of our kids in meaningful ways in her role as a phys ed teacher. And her legacy is felt every day in our schools and will be felt for a long time. Just want to congratulate her. It's very deserving, and it took way too long for that to happen. I hope that the next number of a woman of color in the Salem Public Schools does not take as long as this did, but I'm very happy for her. And I know it was great to see so many of her colleagues in the audience as well, who she spreads a lot of joy in the Salem Public Schools. So congratulations to Evie. With that, I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Pauly, who has an update on our capital request for the FY27.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent Zreich. And I'm actually going to invite Member Baez, as the chair of the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee, if you want to set up tonight's presentation on our FY27 requests with any comments, happy to invite you to do so, and then we'll dive in. We do have a few slides for you this evening.
Yes, so Elizabeth and Z will present the capital priority overview. And the priorities are just input from the different schools, parents, regular walkthroughs and facilities about the safety of the school, accessibilities, and upgrades, and like the play spaces and things that need upgrades. So I'll just bring it back to Elizabeth and Z for the presentation.
Great. And Z, our Director of Facilities, was planning to join me, and then he texted me just before this meeting started to say he needed to visit a few schools and get eyes on the parking lots and also check the roof of Salem High School. So I believe he is, as we speak, on the roof of Salem High School and will not be joining us. So I will share just a few slides that are FY27 capital requests for Salem Public Schools. So as the committee will recall, in January, we bring you a set of requests that we plan to bring to the city. And just to invite the committee in and to be transparent about what we are prioritizing after receiving feedback and then considering both the data we receive from our Operations Hero work order system, conversations with principals, and our multi-year plans. So next slide, please. So this year, we are bringing to the city a suite of capital requests that total $5.825 million. That is more than the city is typically able to fund, but less than what we requested last year. So it's about 6% less in terms of total asks. There are some one-time costs that I'll share with you, and then some recurring projects that will move our work forward. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, this slide shows you two of our beautiful new generators, and the chart at the bottom is the appropriation from the city's capital budget. You can see that the total we received for FY26 was $3.5 million. A large chunk of that was for the roof replacement at Bates. Another large ticket item was our generators, and then our playgrounds. Now you can see on the playground line that it is $210,000. We received additional funding from the state and then funding from other city sources. That line item ultimately grew to $500,000. So that was our original appropriation, but the $500,000 funded the renovation of the Bates playground. The only other thing I would add on this slide is there, you can see in the gym floor line, there was an appropriation for $120,000 that was matched by $125,000 earmark from the state, as well as some additional funds. And that supported the installation of a new portable gym floor at the high school. So there were concerns for many years about the gym floor at the high school not being actually safe for athletes to play on. And so we have installed an NBA quality gym floor that is portable. So when the high school is torn down or replaced by a new beautiful building, that floor can be installed in another school. So we are glad that it is already being put to good use, but that is what we spent the gym floor funding on. So next slide, please. So looking ahead, I mentioned that we developed these plans in close partnership with school leaders. We listen very carefully to feedback we receive from the public. As part of this process, I did reach back out to the playground committee that came before the committee in the fall, this school committee in the fall. We met with the PTOs for Saltonstall and Carlton. And we did review our data around work orders that come in all year from any staff member and now students at the high school. We strive for our capital requests to align to the city and schools' multi-year priorities. And we do try to balance preventative maintenance as well as repairs. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of our request. We'll send a spreadsheet there's a picture of it here to the city to review these requests. You can see at the bottom, they total 5.8 million. And you can see that I'll go into more detail on the lines, but just from the top, roof replacements, we have requested $350,000. We will not need this money if we are successful in securing grants that the city as our partners have applied for. But this would support the roof replacement at Horace Mann. The Bates RTU replacement would be to replace one of the 11, there are several of the 11 RTU units on the Bates roof that help with the cooling of the building. The Witchcraft boiler replacement would purchase 2 new boilers for Witchcraft Elementary School. The playground line is actually for play spaces, but it is for the Horace Mann Early Childhood Playground, as well as some funding to start the planning process for a new early childhood playground. We've had a lot of advocacy from parents who have said, we really need to do better with the ECC playground. And so we've included some funding to begin planning for a new playground for the Early Childhood Center. Security and life safety, we'll talk about actually in just a moment. Technology, our costs have gone up as we have seen prices rise, but this is for Chromebooks and TouchView screens. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, we will talk about momentarily, as well as HVAC. Painting, this is a relatively new request that we've started the last couple of years to put all schools on a rotation being painted. ADA will help with access for all students and families to the schools, including external ramps. Relocation expenses, we'll talk more about that. That includes movers, boxes, as well as new signage for the new merged school. Grounds repairs are a combination of the standard work we do in the summer, as well as relining and repaving at a number of schools. We have a request in for 2 new vehicles, and then interior upgrades, primarily focusing at Bentley and the Saltonstall building with some investment in Horace Mann. So that is a brief overview of the requests for FY27. And if you go to the next slide, we will dig into what specifically we are looking for. So of that 5.8 million, 2.4 million will go to MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and HVAC. Last year, we spent about $500,000 for our HVAC systems for different backlog repairs. We want to continue those repairs and tackling deferred maintenance. Some of the highlights of this request include, and we've included photos, on the left are the window units that we want to install at the Bentley School. So the Bentley School has window units that were installed when Bentley was a charter. They are beyond their lifespan. These portable units are no longer functioning as they should. So we are including $200,000 to replace all of those window units. The middle picture is the playground, the early childhood playground at Horace Mann. It is not ADA accessible, and the equipment and sizing of it is not appropriate for the age group. And so this was the next playground identified in our playground report that was teed up for replacement. And finally, that last picture is a picture of the fire panel at Bates that needs to be replaced. There are no longer parts made and their units are beyond their useful life. So we're also proposing to replace fire panels for both Horace Mann and Witchcraft, who are in the same boat. Next slide, please. So security and life safety. This is a picture on the right-hand side of the PA system at Bentley. And so at both Bentley and Witchcraft, the PA systems are in need of replacement. For the Witchcraft PA, the parts are no longer available and we can't actually change the bell schedule because we just have to go with what the current PA system has. At Bentley, the system is more than 35 years old. And not only are parts not available, but the company will no longer service or inspect it for fear of it not turning back on after it is serviced. It poses a safety risk currently with ECC not having the PA system working on their side of the building. We have mitigated this by ensuring that every single classroom has walkie-talkies. So the school does have communication, but we're proposing to replace, as part of the investment in Bentley, replace a building-wide PA. Other security and life safety, I mentioned already the fire panels. We're also proposing to install secure vestibules at Bentley and Witchcraft. We are continuing this process of installing vestibules for safety in all of our schools. We have this past year, we did one at Salts and Horace Mann, and so Bentley and Witchcraft will be next on the list. We're planning to add access controls, cameras, and intrusion alarm upgrades at schools. We have some schools that don't have a swipe access control for their kitchen doors or doors that staff commonly use. We plan to install cameras whenever we do a new playground, and just making sure that we have the alarm systems that we need in all of our buildings. And finally, the fire and sprinkler repairs, some of which we do every year to make sure that our buildings are safe for all who are in them. Next slide, please. So for play spaces, I have mentioned that we're planning to invest in the Horace Mann Early Childhood Playground. This is a picture of the Bates Early Childhood Playground, and we are looking to do something equally as beautiful for Horace Mann. We did include $25,000 in funds for planning to begin really moving on the ECC playground. Next slide, please. So we wanted to call out the way that we are investing in the schools most impacted by the portfolio reconfiguration and the merger in particular. And we consider Bentley to be one of those schools. We have, with some intentionality, not been making large investments in Bentley over the last couple of years because we were unsure of the lifespan of that building. We now have recommitted to Bentley. And so this year we're proposing to make some repairs that are long overdue. So I mentioned the PA system. The window AC units need to be replaced. They are beyond their lifespan and they are not working. The Bentley building will need a larger assessment of what it will cost and how we could install a modern HVAC system. We're planning to do an assessment of the building and hope to time that for the next cycle for the MSBA's Accelerator Repair Program, so we can receive some partnership support for that. So while there is the need for a larger assessment of the Bentley building, this year we're proposing these sets of things that we think will make a real difference in the Bentley and begin to chip away at some of the overdue maintenance. So the PA, the window units, the grounds will plan to reline and repave the parking lot and driveway. And so that is the grounds item. The gym floor will get stripped, polished, and waxed, so not replaced, but we think we will be able to really brighten it up this year. We plan to paint the building, switch over the lighting to LEDs, replace parts of the fire panel, and then build a secure vestibule. So actually, the other thing that Zeke mentioned in this slide is that Bentley has a very old key system, so we'll replace all the locks and the keys in Bentley to ensure that the principal has access and that we have keys for every room of the building. So that is, we took and carved out of our larger request how much would be invested in Bentley, and that is $555,000. Next slide, please. So for the salt and stall building, we plan to finish painting the building. We started that last summer. The grounds, we will be repaving the parking lot there and adding an additional spot. We know that the salt and stall building will need new signage to reflect the new school community and also the new name. And then we're planning other interior upgrades to be determined in partnership with the school. So one item that has come up regularly has been investing in the auditorium. And so we've included funds for interior upgrades at Salt and Stall. And altogether, we estimate the investments in Salt and Stall to be $275,000. And I think that might be it. Could you go to the next slide? Oh, no, how could I forget? With Mark advancing my slides, how could I forget to mention elevating learning with technology? And so we do include technology and the hardware that we use as part of our capital requests. This year, because of rising prices, our costs are expected to go up to about $650,000. That will purchase new Chromebooks for grades 1, 6, and 9, 200 new staff Chromebooks, touch view screens, which are the interactive whiteboards for Bentley and the Salt and Stall building, and then relocating the touch view screens that are at Carleton to the Salt and Stall building. Next slide, please. And that is the last slide. So I'm happy to take questions from the committee. You have these slides in your packet, so if I can answer anything, I'd be glad to. Oh, and actually, while you're thinking of your questions, it did occur to me that I wanted to reiterate that we know we have asked for what the city can typically afford. Generally, the city tends to provide capital funds for us in the range of $3 to $3.5 million. So the next step will be meeting with the city finance team to review the proposals and see what might be possible. So sorry to leave that out.
Member Stott.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the details. I guess your last comment was kind of one of my questions of what is there an ask on a vote for this tonight without really knowing those levels of detail. I'm not sure how like kind of the whole budget process works here. So that might be some education that I need. And then I did have some questions on the numbers that were presented. The first one was around the ADA updates of it just being 25,000 a year. That seems really low to me, especially if we have like a backlog of ADA updates that are required. So I'm curious how that number comes to every year and if you feel that it's sufficient and covers us of what is needed for those essential updates.
Thank you. So on the ADA request, generally we have received about $25,000, and that that is about what we spend, and that, like, last year helped rebuild the ramp in the front of Horace Mann. So I would say that we use this funding for projects like that, to fix curb cuts, to improve ramps. We've used it for signage, so replacing signs that have Braille on them, making sure they're up to date with what the building needs, each building needs. We've also replaced sinks so that students who use a wheelchair for mobility can access the sinks. We do make other ADA repairs as we're, doing any of these projects. We're doing them with an eye toward making all of our spaces accessible. So these are funds that we have used, and we have found that a $25,000 ask does tend to support what we need to do. These are funds that we explicitly use for that, but we embed that into all that we do. And then the first question was about the budgeting process. So we put these plans together in collaboration with principals, with, taking input, the work orders, using our multi-year plans. And then we bring these to you. We will share them next we'll send it to the city's finance office this week. And then we will meet with the finance team to talk about all of these are important, all of these are priorities. What is the most pressing set of priorities that we need? So even as we expect to have to winnow down these requests, we work very closely with City Hall to do that. The final package gets presented to City Council with our budget in May, after this body has approved our general fund budget. This is part of the conversation with City Council.
If I may, I have two more quick questions. The first one, I think you made a quick comment. I just wanted to confirm about the ECC playground, because I know as a former counselor, I got a lot of emails about that. So I just wanted to make sure that that was also on the radar. I didn't see it in the presentation.
Yes, of the $535,000 that we're requesting for play spaces, we have $25,000 in for planning process for early childhood playground for ECC. So our hope and intent would be to put this planning process in motion and then bring you a full request for the ECC playground with our next set of capital requests. And Superintendent Drake, do you want to?
I just want to be careful. I was going to mention that as well. I want to be clear, because I want the public to be clear. That is not suggesting that the ECC will necessarily be staying at that site. I think there's discussions that the school committee needs to have about, as we did a few months ago, about the ECC potentially moving to another site. So when we see ECC playground, we don't mean the ECC building, because that the school could be somewhere else. But we still believe we need a playground for that age group of kids, whether it stays in that building or moves to another location like the current Carlton.
Thank you. And then my last question is just about the energy efficiency program. Is the city or the school still working with our NESCO to ensure, like when I saw the window units at Bentley, that to me just didn't seem like the most green way of cooling down classrooms. I didn't know if that was a temporary process or if that's more of a long-term plan. I'm not as well versed in that world, so I don't really know exactly what my question is, but I'm sure, or I hope that that's been part of the conversation to make sure that, we're following the green building, the municipal ordinance, and utilizing our information there.
Yes, we are working closely with the city on the ESCO projects. Part of this year's investment in Bentley will be switching over to LED lighting, which we have done in all of our other buildings. The window units are, because we do think there needs to be a longer term, larger investment in HVAC at Bentley, but these window units that they currently have won't last another year. So this purchase will provide us with more energy efficient window units, but it is still window units. the other work that we're doing to green our buildings, for example, the Horseman roof is being done in full partnership with the city, and we're expecting that this will help Horseman green their heating and cooling systems. And so we are moving to that. But in the case of Bentley, we felt like we couldn't wait for a large investment in their cooling since they're not going to make it another year with what they have. And I'm really sorry about my dog barking at me.
Out of attention. Any other questions on the capital requests? Member Hoffman.
I just had a quick question. Was there something about the ECC that Manny had gotten some funds for a playground there, but it's that, and now like understand, thank you for clarifying, Steve, about the ECC and where it could be. But are those funds able to go with the ECC to wherever we decide, or what we decide what happens with that? Or is that specifically city-owned money for because the city owns that park that the ECC is now on? I'm sorry if I'm incorrect in any of this, but I was just curious.
So we did receive, thanks to Representative Cruz, we did receive $20,000 or $25,000 a year or so ago for equipment at the ECC playground, and the teachers and the principal of the school used that to buy equipment for the playground. The things they chose to buy were things like bikes and toys that children could use. And so they come out for recess and they get put away. I think the vision is to have something beautiful like we have now at Bates, and we'll have at Horseman, where there can be climbing structures that are developmentally appropriate, and other playground equipment that is developmentally appropriate for young children and accessible. So we have purchased things for the ECC playground that would go with them wherever. I think there have been other investments in the ECC playground, and it is a city-owned park. So I know the city has worked on ways to bring more shade to the playground, for example. So I think the things that have been purchased can move with the school, but Superintendent, I don't know if you want to add to or edit anything I've said.
Oh, Mayor, you may want to weigh in on this too, but ultimately, yeah, we're waiting on a shade structure to be installed there. We're trying to find the final funds to be able to do that. I think that is a city playground that would be continued to be in use beyond whether the ECC was there or not. I think ultimately the problem we have is we do not have an age-appropriate playground structure for the age of students who attend the ECC. And so ultimately we're going to have, that playground, that space can stay even if the ECC is not there as a city space, but we're going to have to build a playground for children of the age group that the Early Childhood Center serves at some point. So I don't know that it would be moved. I'm not sure if the shade structure would be moved, but it would still remain as a play space because the Bentley School would still be there.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. I mean, just to say we have, we did get a CPA grant for about $60,000 for the shade structure. That's not the full amount that we need for it though. So like the superintendent said, we're working to try to identify a funding source for the gap to close that, to be able to get it installed. Whether or not the ECC continues to be at that location, it is a city park. It'll be used by kids for hopefully many, many years to come. And so we'll be continuing to look for ways to make investments in it. Any other questions on the capital requests? All right. So we have this under motions and resolutions for a vote as well. Is there any other finance updates or requests?
No other finance updates or requests. Thank you.
Superintendent, do you have nothing else for your report?
Ready to move,
All right,
ready to
we'll
move
move.
on.
All right, we'll move on to subcommittee reports. We heard from Buildings and Grounds. I don't know if there's anything further on that or any other subcommittees that have reports to share. Nope. All right. All right, we'll move on to motions and resolutions. The first item is the calendars for the 2026-2027 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar, but with a change that the 30th is a half day for students and a remote second half of the day PD for educators.
I'll second that.
In lieu of the 21st.
Lieu of the 21st, yeah.
All right. So there's a motion to approve the calendar. Oh, Laura's got her hand up. Laura, did you have something to offer, or is that a?
Nope, sorry, that was a wrong click.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the calendar with the change to the October half day and professional development remote to the 30th as opposed to the 21st. Seconded under discussion. This is the easiest calendar vote in a long time. Oh, all right. All right. Roll call vote on the motion. Member Hoffman.
Yes.
Member Miranda.
Yes.
Member Bias.
Yes.
Member Cornell.
Yes.
Member Stott.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion carries 6-0. Our next item is setting the enrollment targets for 2026-2027 for student assignments.
Motion to approve the enrollment
s-
targets.
Motion made by Member Cornell. Was there a second?
Second.
Member
I
Bias?
second.
Oh yeah, Member Bias. Okay. Under discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote on the motion. Member Miranda.
Yes.
Member Bias.
Yes.
Member Cornell.
Yes.
Member Stott.
Yes.
Member Hoffman.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 6-0. Our next item under motions and resolutions was not contained in the superintendent's report. It is on the naming of the newly consolidated Salton, Stall, and Carlton schools in the building on Lafayette Street. Yep, Dr. Zarek.
Yeah, sorry. Can I just remind the committee that in your packet you have a list of the names that the community recommended. I will note that the community member Adam, who spoke earlier, he had noted that one of his suggestions was not included. So I just want to in an email he sent earlier today, which was Fortin Point Elementary School. I just want to make sure that that gets on the record. It was just an omission. It wasn't anything intentional, but he was merging Fortin and Point. So I just want to, in the back of your packet, you do have the list of recommendations we received from the community with a brief description of why they recommended that particular name.
Thank you. So I will open it up to discussions from the members. I just want to start by saying thanks to all the community members who provided recommendations and a lot of thoughtful insights into their suggestions. You know, we have a policy on school naming. It is the purview of the school committee. We're not obligated to take a recommendation from the community, but I think it was really helpful to hear from people in both school communities and across the city offering their perspectives and their advocacy. So I'm very happy with the list that's here, but if any member wants to suggest something that was not recommended, that's certainly also within your purview as a member of the school committee. So I will open it up to discussion if anybody wants to make a discussion or just start off with a motion.
I'd be curious to hear.
Raise hand.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Member Miranda.
I'd be curious to, before a motion is made, if possible, if we can have some discussion around this.
Yep, absolutely. I want to open it up to committee members to maybe use the raise hand, and I'll call on you and we can have a discussion about it. I do feel I'll go last. Member bias.
I was just gonna say, are we able to review all the options and like kind of name them out loud?
Well, the options are limitless, but we can review the recommendations that that were submitted to us from the community. And so these were also sent out to the public, I believe, in an update last week. We have Point Elementary. Is it possible for Mark to share screen with the table that's in the packet? That might be easier than me just reading the names.
Mayor,
Member Cornell? Yeah.
sorry, it's just we do have names attached to those, and I know there's one elementary school student's name in there, so I'm not sure that we should put that up on the screen.
In the table that was shared with the community? Or that,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that there was one with the community.
yeah, the one in the packet, I think, only has the suggested school name and the description. And then we also have the Fortin Point recommendation. So I guess I'll put it back out to the committee. You know, what are we looking for in the name of a school, and what are your thoughts, concerns, or hopes? Member bias? Oh, member Stott?
Thank you. I guess I'll kick it off with just kind of my initial thoughts in looking at the names suggested. So to me, they all kind of fell into three categories, right? Kind of a geography, location type name, a person name, and then the third was kind of a creative mix of both of those, which I appreciated. All of the suggestions really I thought were thoughtful and had me digging really a lot more into especially the naming of the people. I know I went and I got a few books from the library, and I appreciate all the links that were provided because it really I think is going to be a great learning experience for the community and also a great communication experience and really getting that information out. So all of that said, my initial thoughts after growing up here, always going to schools named after men in this area or notable figures, and knowing that that can be problematic. I do think that that practice should change. On the flip side, I don't feel comfortable with the first opportunity to change that practice and not utilize it to honor a woman, hopefully a woman of color, from our history. So those are my initial thoughts. I really want to hear, what everyone else has to think, because I know I just started to scratch the surface on the names that were submitted. There were some really, really, I can't say it enough, really great research that was done and provided to us. And I just want to say I really appreciate that. And I really hope that we can continue that and take that, include the schools, include the children, and include the students and the teachers and the community in that education piece. So that's definitely where I'm leaning. And then I'll even say it, I'm leaning more towards Redmond. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Mostly because as a former Salem State student, I know that there is a building named after Fortin there. And we also have a Fortin Park within the city. We do have a Redmond Park within the city, but it's not as prominently located. So I think the connection between Redmond and schools, it would be really timely to have that acknowledgement and honor.
Member Miranda.
I completely agree with everything that Member Stott had mentioned, and then also just wanted to highlight that there's like a really awful and also I think could be a beautiful connection between Saltonstall, Leverett Saltonstall, and Sarah Parker Remond, that I think is worth highlighting and could just be like a full circle moment for us as a community. I won't go into the history here, but I also did like a deep dive and also did a little bit of a deep dive into Clarissa Lawrence. And there wasn't as much information on her. And generally speaking, I think would love to be able to support having one of our schools named after a woman, and especially a Black woman who was directly impacted from the opinion of Leverett Saltonstall's opinion back in the 1830s, which basically talked about separate but equal schools. And she was directly impacted by that. So I too would be in favor of Sarah Parker Remond.
Member Crow.
I am also leaning in that direction for all the reasons that Member Miranda just stated so beautifully. The one thing that gives me pause a little bit, I don't know if I cut out, is I thought that Adam, who spoke in public comment, raised a really beautiful idea about grounding students in place and really thinking about kind of the diversity of our community and expanding beyond the downtown and just the vibrancy of where Saltonstall is. So I liked the idea of kind of combining that Fortin Point. And so, if it's the majority opinion that we sort of just go with her name, Raymond, then that would also be fine with me. But I think there is something lovely about that as well. Saltonstall holds geographically is just sort of a important space in our community. So I don't think Raymond Point like rolls off the tongue the way Fortin Point does though. So, but I just wanted to say that.
Cindy.
I think that Salem is very diverse in its community, and I think that's very important for us to highlight, which was really what also kind of encouraged me to speak about it. It was Adam, I think his name was, that spoke in the beginning for the Fortin Point Elementary. I think it's a very good point considering that all of us who are sort of brought up in Salem were only really taught about like the witch trials, even though there's so much more culture and diversity and community in Salem that often goes untalked about, especially in the Point where there is this mix of cultures from everywhere. And I also really like the idea of the Redmond Elementary, especially just like how Member Miranda said, there's a lot of history tied to it. And I think it would be a very interesting turning point for us as a city to move past these sort of racial injustices that have consistently sort of shaped everyone in society to something more progressive, especially now considering that it could be named after a woman of color as well. That would be very, very interesting and very cool for me to witness.
Laura, your hand is up again.
That was actually intentional. So thank you for
Okay.
the opportunity to speak. I just want to be respectful of the family's name, and that we think about the Asian of their last name. It's Ramont. Um, so in written pronunciation, the way to pronounce it is Rehmond. So Raymond, and I want to make sure that that is reflected as we continue to connect about voting for the school name and pronouncing it properly.
Laura,
Thank
can you just say that one more time? Oh,
Wanted to be respectful and share the proper
no, just
pronunciation
can you
of the
just put, yeah,
family.
can you just
Hold up.
pronounce it one more time?
So yes, Raymond.
Ramond, okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Member Hoffman.
So I agree with what everyone has said here and have also done a lot of research on the names and my thought was I actually like the Sarah Parker Raymond name because I feel like we're always talking about diversity, but we're not really doing the inclusion part. And whereas we already have so many Fortin, we've kind of glommed onto one person of color. And I really feel strongly that it's time to, and I know that there is also one about the Raymond, but we hear less of her, right? And I also think that the Levette that is also someone to consider. But I really feel like if we are going to be a diverse community, we need to start focusing on inclusion. And as for my thoughts for the schools, I want someone new. And I realize it's kind of sorry, my dog. I realize that I'm also recommending Raymond again while we already have one, but outside. But like I said, we've spoken less about her. But I feel like she has a real strong connection, and also being part of the segregation of Salem, it's important to honor her in that way. So I would like us all to focus on inclusion and less about diversity and think about like um, how we include our history of color into our community and not just stand on this high word diversity. Like it doesn't feel good to me. So I apologize if that's insulting to anyone. It's just my own personal thoughts over mulling over all these names. Ah.
Member Cornell.
I just now want to say now that Laura Assad has corrected us on how to pronounce it. I think Raman Point actually does sound nice now. So again, I could go either way, but again, I just wanted it flows a little better now that I know how to pronounce it. So I just want to say that.
Member Miranda.
Thank you, and thank you, Laura, for correcting that. I just wanted to add, there's two reasons why I don't like the idea of tying the last name to a location. One is I think, and I'm still trying to, I'm like processing this in real time, but like connecting our first potential Black woman, and then adding the point in the name. I'm like still processing that, but I don't know that I love that idea. I feel like it takes away from the person. And then the second reason why I don't love the location, adding the location marker in the name is because we've had discussions as a body of making sure not to continue to gentrify our dual language program, and we've talked about as a body potentially moving the dual language program to that building. And I feel that by adding the point in the name is like one of the ways of erasing that and attempting to like solidify that the Carleton Salts merger that community stays in that building. And so I have some deep concerns about that.
Any further questions, comments, discussion? Yep, Member Hoffman.
I just wanted to ask. I also feel like whatever we name the school, we should actually teach the history of it in our schools so that everyone is aware of why we celebrate, why we have this name. I think the history is important and we shouldn't shy away from it. And especially as a white person, I really want our community to understand how important these women were to our community and why we're doing this. That's it.
Member Stott.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm similar to a lot of this line of conversation. I personally prefer the full name. I knew I was pronouncing it incorrectly, but I think that would be a part, even after hearing it many times, I think that would have to be a part of kind of education, or we'd have to figure out a plan on how to do that so it doesn't get changed by the community. I mean, we have other schools that honestly, when I moved here, I had no idea how to pronounce the Bowditch School. I would like multiple pronunciations of it. So you would want to make sure that whatever we do stays over time. I'm thinking of an elementary school that my nieces go to in a different town, and it's gotten shortened to just the initials because it's a very long, not. So I would want to make sure we kind of think through all of that, that if we're leading down this path, what does that mean? And what could like the variations of that be? And how do we, keep it consistent with the community? The other reason why I like the full name is it really kind of keeps the history there. I know when my kid was at the Carleton School, I remember asking, who's the Carleton School named after? And it was like, it's just one name. It's really kind of hard to figure that out and find the history on them. So I like that the full name is there. I do like at Collins that it says, the full name on the side when you drive in. So if you wanted to learn more, it just provides a little more context and detail there. Those are my two thoughts.
Thanks. And I mean, I would add to that. So first of all, for my part, I entirely agree with the sentiments that's been expressed. I don't know that I'm so opposed to naming buildings for people, but certainly not stopping when we only have buildings named for white men. I think that's the wrong time to stop that practice. I think all three of the women of color who were suggested to us would all be fantastic names to put on an public elementary school in Salem. But I agree that Sarah Parker Raymond is the one that feels like is the most appropriate fit, both because of the history with the segregation moment and Leverett Saltonstall, and because, as has been articulated by a few of the members, she feels like a really under-celebrated but important figure in our history, and this would be a chance to elevate that story. I do also agree that the full name should probably be used because it I think it recognizes and honors her part in history. It also distinguishes her from her brother, Charles Lennox Raymond, who was also a very noted abolitionist and orator. But if we want to be very clear about this being named for a woman of color, I think it's important that we use her full name to make it clear we're not talking about the Raymonds in general. Raymond Park off of Bridge Street is intentionally named just Raymond Park because it is supposed to reflect a celebration of both Charles and Sarah. And in this case, I think my preference would be that we make it very clear that this is about Sarah Parker Raymond. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion? Emma Miranda.
I'll make a motion that we name the Carleton Saltonstall building after Sarah Parker Raymond. So Sarah Parker Raymond, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I don't remember which one it is. Elementary.
I'll second.
Motion made by member Miranda, seconded by member Cornell. Under discussion. Any further discussion? All right, on the motion for the naming, I will call the roll. Oh, member Stott.
Thank you. I just had a point of clarification for the process here, being again new to the committee and the policy. I believe I read that the naming needs 3 readings. Is that correct? So it wouldn't go into effect until it's read 3 times?
Is it a motion on the first reading, I believe. Is that right?
Okay.
Looking at someone have the policy up.
And I just want to confirm that was, so while we're voting tonight, there will be 2 additional votes.
Mayor, do I need to amend my motion?
It's a motion, first reading. It's a motion for first reading
Okay.
of the naming then. All right, roll call vote. Member Bias,
Yes.
member Cornell, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Oh. Member Stott,
Yes.
member Hoffman,
Yes.
member Miranda,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Matter carries 6-0 for the first reading of the naming of the Sarah Parker Raymond Elementary School. Next item under motions and resolutions, capital expenditure requests for 2026, 2027 for the fiscal year 27 budget. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve capital requests.
I'll second.
Motion made by member Cornell, seconded by member Miranda. Under discussion. Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a roll call vote. This is on the motion to approve the requests for the capital expenditures for FY 27 for the Salem Public Schools. Member Cornell,
Yes.
member Stott,
Yes.
member Hoffman,
Yes.
member Miranda,
Yes.
member Bias,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Matter carries 6-0. We have no further motions and resolutions. Are there any announcements from committee members? Member Hoffman.
I just wanted to ask, since with sorry, my dog's gonna bark while I'm talking. With everything that's happening in our country today, I have been thinking a lot about our processes and what are our plans if ICE were to come to Massachusetts like they have in Minneapolis, and I'm very worried about our families of color that are legal that are not immigrants that are born here and being profiled. And I just wanted to ask, like, what our procedures might be to protect our families. Lucky. So sorry. I knew this was gonna happen. And then how to protect our trans and non-binary students. These are just thoughts, and I know a lot of fears with a lot of my friends. And so I wanted to know if we should have a meeting somehow to talk about this, because I want to make sure that school leaders are comfortable and our families are comfortable, and maybe having a can you still hear me? Maybe having a a community dinner where we can bring in community members to talk and just kind of have like a casual, like, how are you feeling check-in with our community. I don't know if that's something we can do, but these are just some thoughts I've had, and it's been keeping me up at night. So I wanted to get from all of you what your thoughts are. That's it.
Yeah. Laura, your hands up.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Hoffman. I can speak to that a little bit. We've had over the past couple of weeks inquiries from parents to principals and principals to our central office. I'm sharing this in offices at the Welcome Center. We are supporting families and educators alike with support or any and like with our partners out of Dormant. We have done Know Your Rights. We have done hang on, I'm getting feedback that my connection's not that great. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little choppy.
Can everyone hear me okay? Yes, okay. Okay. Um so we've been supporting families with Know Your Rights information. We've been disseminating information around if there is potential ICE presence, whether that's in Salem or in surrounding communities. Um, I was connected to a resource that was sent out to staff over the weekend for further Know Your Rights training done through the Mirror Coalition and also bystander training that they are going to be offering in February. And it's information that I'm happy to share with this body, and also trying to gather some local resources for bystanders and what to do and what to do when they are wanting to find ways to support their neighbors. The one thing I will share is that families are for sure nervous, and I think having a space to have conversation, maybe thinking about having those online. I also don't want to put any pressure on our families who may be nervous about even coming out to a potential dinner or anything like that. Not to add any more pressure and having to either share stories. I think they're trying to figure out how to support themselves and their families. And but I think that there's still a space for those who want to support neighbors to find the proper channels on how to do that in a safe and supportive manner without putting more strain onto our families. So I'm happy to share those resources that I'm putting together once I have them better organized with the school committee members. And that will be available for you all to also participate in those webinars or training sessions.
Member Miranda?
Yeah, appreciate this being raised as well, and all of the work that we're doing uh, with our families to empower and share information. Also wondering if I don't know if this would need to be like an executive session, but as a school committee member, I'd be interested in having further discussion around what power we do have with the Salem Police Department in protecting civilians from federal agents. They already are here in Massachusetts, but obviously not to the degree that they are in Minneapolis, so and other places. But if it would be appropriate, or if other committee members or the mayor were interested, I'd love to hear from the chief on this and how we plan on putting certain people, potentially officers, putting their bodies in between federal agents and our residents, because it's terrifying what's happening.
So I just want to flag that we're kind of moving from announcements to talking about it, like deliberating on something that probably should be on an agenda. If we want to keep going this way, and this was not something that was on the agenda, so I want to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, we're outside, I think, of what the scope of the announcements section of the agenda is supposed to be about. But, Member Miranda, Member Hoffman, we can, I'll speak with the superintendent and the chief, and we'll see, if we set this up as a separate meeting, or have a conversation with you directly about what those concerns are. But I know that there's wider interest from other members, so it may be, something that in order to maintain the open meeting law consistency, we would have to have in some kind of either posted meeting or executive session. Are there any other announcements for the committee? No. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote on the motion to adjourn. Member Stott?
Yep. Yes.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Miranda?
Yes.
Member Bias?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned for the evening.